Can I try? Okay, Simone, I'm going to start. It's just that the Batty girl is going to do the candles from here.
Okay.
From Shul.
Okay, got
So
it.
it will be the reader camera in a minute.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
You're very close to your... Okay.
There they are. Okay. Hey, Beth. Hello. Come, join me that side. Yeah, join me that side over there. I prepared everything for you. See that you're being seen here. Short is a good way to put it. Okay, you read one of these guys, and this is, and then you light those two candles. Wait until all time. So now I believe we are ready. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Whether you are in the shul here with us, whether you are here in the Zoom with us, everyone is ready. And this Shabbat is coming to us, and we are coming to it. So as we congregate, we sing the Matovu, how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling Israel. How good it is that we can dwell together in those tent of gatherings, in those tents, in those houses of worship. And we have Lee and Dylan with us from home, starting with Matovu. Thank you, Lee and Dylan. And now, as we have formally congregated, I'd like us to move into lighting of the candles. Tomorrow is Beth Levine Bat Mitzvah, which concludes this Bar Mitzvah season we had during the month of October, and I'm glad and looking forward for tomorrow. Beth will also be reading for us the Shema supplement reading. Professor Williams, you've asked, I'm answering. She will also be reading the Shema supplements, but now let us start with lighting of the candles in 118, 119 first. Beth will be lighting the candles for us, and then Lee and Dylan will sing the blessing. To the reader's camera. Okay. Take your mask off as you read.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu hadlik ner shal Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Please join me for the reading in 129 at the top. So whether you are at home, whether you are here, we enter the sanctuary, this holy space. We enter 129 top. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built this synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wandering, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our own turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in pray. Come, let us sing joyously to God. Lechu Neranena 130. To you, Jess.
Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, 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 Naria l'Tzor Yeshenu, Naria l'Tzor Yeshenu, 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 Nekadma fana betoda, Nekadma fana betoda, 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 Bismirot narialo, Bismirot narialo, Bismirot narialo, Bismirot narialo, narialo.
Come, let us sing joyously to God. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For the Eternal One is great God and the great ruler of all divine beings. Let's move to the Hebrew in the following page, 131, Psalm 96. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. 131. שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו ביום ליום ישועתו, ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים, כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים, ואדוני שמיים עשה, הוד והדר לפניו, ועוז ותפארת במקדשו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. עיר המים, עיר המים, עיר המים ומלואו, עיר המים, עיר המים, עיר המים ומלואו. יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל הצייר לפני אדוני, כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים באמונתו. 133, top and bottom in the English, you can join me. 133. The Eternal One is sovereign. Let the earth exalt and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds are around God. Righteousness and justice are the base of God's throne. O you who love God, hate evil. God, guard the lives of your loyal ones, saving them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sun for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you righteous, rejoice in the eternal and acclaim God's holy name. A psalm, sing to God a new song, for you have worked wonders. Your right hand, your holy arm have won you victory. Eternal One, you have shown your victory, displayed your justice in the sight of the nations. You were mindful of your love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth behold the victory of our God. And 135, Psalm 99. אדוני מלך ירגזו עמים, יושב קרובים תנות הארץ, אדוני בציון גדול, ורם הוא על כל העמים, יודו שמך גדול ונורא קדוש הוא, ועוז מלך משפט אהב. אתה כוננת מישרים, משפט וצדקה ביעקב אתה עשית, רוממו, 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 אדוני אלוהינו. To you, Jess.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו להקודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו להקודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, רוממו
page 136, Psalm 29. Psalm to David who has written all the Psalms according to the faith, and here we are. I'm going to speak about King David later on in my sermon as it touches the Haftorah. Take it as a promo. מזמור לדוד, אבו לאדוני בני אלים, אבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, אבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד עם אדוני, אדוני על מים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר. כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון. וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון, וסריון כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש. כל אדוני יחולל איילות, ויחשוף יערות ובהיכלו. כולו אומר כבוד, אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו, ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. את עמו, את עמו, את עמו בשלום. With that, we conclude the Psalms which represent the days of the week before we move to the Lecha Dodi and to the Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Psalm 92. I'd like to invite Professor Williams to introduce to us, to present to us the weekly meditation. To you, Meryl.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. A few weeks ago, or rather a few months ago, at our Erev Shabbat service, Scott reflected on the significance of time in Judaism. And I'd just like to think about that a little bit more this Erev Shabbat. Time, after all, is crucial to our tradition. If we go back to the experience of our ancient ancestors, they were very much conditioned by the regular rhythms of nature and the seasons as they pursued their agricultural activities. And our whole Jewish calendar is also infused with that same sense of the workings of the natural universe through the pilgrim festivals, modulated by the high point of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, times both for teshuvah or repentance, and also for hope, for regeneration, for starting a new aspect of one's spiritual life. Judaism places a great deal of emphasis on life cycle events such as weddings or bat mitzvah, as Beth is celebrating this evening. There are times for special mitzvot. There are times for prayer, times for reflection, times for introspection. And most of all, Shabbat is special because it's the moment when the Jew creates a special palace in time, again, as the tradition teaches us. Shabbat gives us the opportunity for meditation, for renewal, for self-transformation. And so as we come to the end of this week, which may have been rich and rewarding for some of us, and distressing and demanding for others, I'd like to close off this moment of meditation by reading a very short poem by the popular Israeli poet Natan Yonatan that Rabbi and I translated together not long ago. And as you'll see from this poem, Yonatan reflects on a kind of space-time continuum which offers special opportunities for each and every one of us. And this is the poem, At the End of the Road. In every place there is a chasm for the bold, and shade for the weary, and a fountain pouring out coolness. In every dawn there is dew for those who tremble, and light for those who love, and cold stones and wild grass. In every sunset, as we are now, in every sunset, there is an end for the storm-driven, and a tree for the childless, and a rock for those who lie down at the end of the road.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I wish for us to translate many more poems. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Let those words come down, sink in us, and then Lee and Dylan will lead us via the Lechadodi, which is in page 138, 139. Thank you, Dylan and Lee, and straight to Jess, to Mizmor Shir and Mikolot Maim, 140, 141.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לה לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבר, עלי היגיון בחינות, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמך עליון, וזמר לשמך עליון, כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רנה, מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מקלות מים, מים רבים, אדירים אדירים, משברי ים, מקלות מים, מים רבים, אדירים אדירים, משברי ים, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, אדוני, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, לי לי לי, אדיר במרום, אדוני.
Thank you, Jess. With that, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Dylan. With that, we are moving to the Reader's Kaddish, which takes us into the Shema and its blessings. And that part, only the Shema and its blessing, will be led by Professor Williams. Well, I'll invite Beth in a minute to come forward and read for us the supplements of the Shema reading. Itgadal v'Itkadash Merabah 144. Please rise here and
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. אמן. בעל מה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיית כל בית ישראל. בגל ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יש מרבו מבורך לעולם עולם מעל מעיין.
Baruch Hu. Die, 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai
We continue on page 147 at the top. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nevarech, let us bless. We turn now to page 148 and the traditional blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potech she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. Page 150 for Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 152, Jess will lead us into the Shema. On page 154, I'd like to invite Beth to read the Torah material that accompanies the Shema in honor of her bat mitzvah this evening and tomorrow. Beth, over to you.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. ושירתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Isn't it Vayomer next to me? Okay. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe limor, Diber al bnei Yisrael, va'amarta alechem, va'yasu lechem tzitzit. Al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf batil techelet, v'haya lechem letzitzit. Uritem oto, uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, va'asitem otam. V'lo taturu acharei levavachem, va'acharei einechem, asher atem zonim achareihem. Nema'an tiskuru, va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kodeshim Elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lirot lachem Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem emet.
Yishar koach, well done.
Mazel tov, Beth, beautifully read.
Looking forward to continue tomorrow. Back to you, Professor Williams.
Thank you, Rabbi, and again, warm congratulations to Beth, wonderfully read. We continue on page 157, page 157 at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. At the top of page 158, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neta b'kodesh. Nora tehilot asef elef, nora tehilot asef elef. Malachut
ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, Eternal One, for redeeming Israel. Page 160 for the Hashkivenu. As we face the darkness of the night, a darkness which brings its physical, practical risks, all our emotional turmoil, all our uncertainties, all our unresolved doubts and longings, we ask God to allow us to lie down in peace and to awake again to new life, fully renewed. I'm going to read the Hebrew this evening. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha, v'hoshienu lema'an shemecha, v'hagen ba'adenu, v'haser me'aleinu oyev, dever, v'cherev, v'rav, v'yagon, v'harchek mimenu avon v'fesha, uv'tzel knafecha tastirenu, ki el shomrenu matzilenu ata, ki el chanun v'rachum ata, ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chayim u'l'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, haforei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. God, watch over us and deliver us, for you, God, are gracious and merciful. God, our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Page 162, V'shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Thank you, Mel. Right?
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm always honored to work with the lay readers, and we also, I think we are learning the right balance between the lay readers and myself and the musician in this new hybrid situation. So thanks for being gracious with us as it comes. We are moving to the Amidah, which start with the Adonai Sfatai Tiftach in page 164. I'd like to invite Shiloh and Charlene, who 3 weeks ago done their Bati together with Charlene's family to honor us with opening and closing the ark. If we can have the Bima camera and me, the Bima camera and me. Later on we'll have Jess will be joining us. So we are on 164. One here, one there. Please rise. Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקורא הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, ומעל שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אמן. 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ובתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. 170. אתה קדוש ושמך הקדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. You're holy and your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed the eternal one, the holy God. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. 172. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you bless it above all other days, most sacred in all festival times. And so it is written in your Torah, וכן כתוב בתורתך, ויחולו. To you, Jess.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
173 at the top. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, nekadesh HaShabbat. 175. רצי אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני שאותך לבדך בהירה נעבוד. מודים. We are acknowledged with thanks. 176 to you, Jess.
מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן אישנו צור חיינו מגן אישנו אתה הוא לדור ודור לדור ודור נודה לך ונספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל ערב בבוקר בצהריים ערב בבוקר בצהריים הטוב כי לא חלום רחם לך והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך מעולם קיווינו לך קיווינו
Finally, 179, and join me for the English. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, our eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders and health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of the land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Israel, b'shalom. Thank you. If you stand, please be seated. We move to a silent moment. You can close, Shiloh, you can close the ark. You can be seated. Silent moment. We present our praise in front of the throne of glory, when truly will be heard, and Lee will lead us via the Yiyu L'Ratzon. May the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable to your God, our rock and our deliverer. Thank you. And we're moving now to the Mishaberach 511. There are names that we would like to mention, people that we pray for the well-being, renewal of spirit, renewal of body, us, our dearest ones, people we know, people we care about, people who've been through turmoil and suffering, people who are now through turmoil and suffering. Please mention the names now.
Liebe Kellen, Sorrely Sherman, Dave Lewis, Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor Abracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor Abrachla Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you. As I always say, may those who sow into you will reap in joy. Friends, we are concluding the month of Cheshvan this week, and we are starting the month of Kislev. So we are moving into the third month of the Kislev, the third month of the Jewish year, which is the month when we celebrate toward the end of it the festival of Hanukkah. We are in 378, declaring the month. Please move with me, 378. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace and prosperity, chaim arukim, chaim shel shalom, chaim shel parnasa, a life exalted with love of Torah and reverence of the divine, a life in which the longing of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Mi she'asa nisim.
Mishe'asa Nisim, Mishe'asa Nisim, Mishe'asa Nisim, Nisim, Avoteinu. Mishe'asa Nisim, Mishe'asa Nisim, Mishe'asa Nisim, Nisim, Lavotenu. Mishe'asa Nisim, Nisim, Lavotenu. Mishe'asa Nisim, Nisim, Lavotenu. V'kolata Nissim Lavotenu Mishel Sa Nissim Mishel Sa Nissim Mishel Sa Nissim Nissim Lavotenu V'kabez Yidachenu Me'obok Nafot Haaretz Chaverim Kol Yisrael V'na'amar Amen
ראש חודש כסלו יהיה ביום שישי הבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה. The new month of Kislev will begin on Friday, the 5th of November. May it be a good for us and all the Jewish people. May it be the will of the Holy One ever to be praised, that it bring us and the whole house of Israel life and peace, happiness and joy, deliverance and consolation. And let us say, Amen, Amen. We can use some deliverance and consolation, huh? We can use some. Good. Shabbat Shalom, friends. Here's my sermon. Tonight, I'm going to focus on the Haftorah, the story of the prophets, which this week comes from the end of the days of King David, the book of Kings, chapter 1. Beth is going to read the full story tomorrow. I'm going to go in between the lines and just highlight what I find to be important. Let's just say that the parasha, the Torah, described the transition from the days of Sarah and Abraham to the days of Isaac and Rebekah, and the death of Sarah brought in the beginning of the parasha, the death of Abraham in the end of it, and in the middle, the transition, the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah, the potential heirs. So the next parasha will be deal with the stories of Toldot, will be dealing with the stories of the new generation of Isaac and Rebekah. And the Haftorah also deals with the transition of generation, the end of the days of King David and the beginning of the days of King Salomon. And for that we have to deal with the move, the ban from the leadership of Adoniah, the potential heir that sees itself as a heir, is being removed from leadership, and Solomon is being anointed, coronated king. The chapters after that, the chapter after that will deal already with the kingdom of Solomon. So the background to the chapters that we are going to read is in Samuel 2 and in Chronicles 1, when we read about the days of the kingdom of David, 40 years of regnum. It's not like Queen Elizabeth, but it's a long time to be a king, 40 years, and David has many wives and many sons. The turmoil, the sad events of the last years leads the two potential first heir, Absalom, who rebel against him, and Amnon dead, and then the next son in heir, the next in line of succession should be Adoniah. But for a variety of reasons we'll touch in a moment, King David is choosing Solomon to continue it. And you see that there is preparation for that, but apparently not enough preparation for that. And it's interesting to see that in the book of Chronicles, there is kind of emphasis on those preparation to appoint Solomon, but those preparation does not appear in the book of Kings. And the reason is, and you see also later again, the example for that, the book of Chronicles is the official history, and the book of Kings is the novel. See what I'm saying? So you get much more of a literature elements in the books of Samuel, in the books of Kings, while the book of Chronicles was more carefully edited by the scribes of the court, who wants to put everyone nice and neat. So the situation is that we are on the end of the days of a strong king. It's a strong kingdom, developed kingdom, that a result of tens of years of efforts by King Saul and King David, and now everything depends on the ability to inherit it, to have a heir that will keep the power in his hands, that the country will not go into civil war, as happens just one generation later on. And people who are, at the time of changing of power, all those who have interest pop up and try to get their bite in the power. So Adoniah, who is losing power, and he sees that his father is very weak, he's trying to grab the regime, he's trying to grab the state. He's gathering his people around the fountain in Jerusalem, Ein Rogel, and he's kind of making an anointment, private anointment to himself. And the attempt is to create today would call it a spin, create a spin that his father has renounced the appointment of Salomon as the heir apparent, and now he, Adoniah, is the heir. And without immediate reaction, that trick could have worked, but thankfully, Nathan the prophet is intervened, and he is calling Bathsheba, the mother of Salomon, for that. Let's see how it works, how they frustrate the scheme of Adoniah the prince. I want to say that these stories, as many other stories in the book of Samuel and Kings, stand in one line with any HBO Netflix series you would choose, truly and honestly. Let's go over it. Let's go back to the beginning. King David had 18 wives. It's not thousands like King Salomon, but 18 wives. It's quite a lot. And here now we hear about the 19th wife, or the 19th lady who served him. Here is the first chapters of the book. Now King David was old, advanced in years. This is one-to-one what is said on Abraham. Abraham is old, advanced in years, one-on-one. And they put covers on him, but he could not get warm. Therefore his servants said to him, let a young woman, a virgin, be sought for our lord the king, and let her stand before the king, and let her care for him, and let her lie in your bosom, that our lord the king may be warm. So they sought for a lovely young woman throughout all the territories of Israel, and found Abisag the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the young woman was very lovely, and she cared for the king, and served him, but the king did not know her. What an opening to the book, huh? What an opening. An old king that his body is so cold that he has no way to warm himself. His body doesn't produce any more warmth. I just want to say about King David, you read his stories, you see that everyone loves him, and it's not clear. It was very narcissist personality. Not clear who did he love other than Jonathan. Who did he love in his long life? And for some reason, another man is not the solution, needs a lady, and the many women he have, the 18 women he has, is also not a solution. We need a new girl to do it. And now the question that bothering the commentaries during the generations are two. Why a young lady? And two, why are you sharing this information with us? Not truly. Why do you think you, the biblical scribe, why do you think we need to know about it? It's an embarrassment. And Exhibit 2, on the Book of Chronicles, this story does not appear. I told you there was like more combing of the details in the Book of Chronicles. It's more like formal history than this novel of our book. This is the mother of all, in English they say lion in the winter. Lion in the winter, the old king, the Don Juan, the hero of wars, the one that was loved by many women, here in his old defilement. It's embarrassing to see it. Now I was sitting the other day with Beth, we were going over the Haftorah. It says, and the king did not know her. Beth, as a young girl, as a young lady, say intuitively, thank God, at least that. That's the right intuition. That's the healthy intuition. It reflects on the stories of Achashverosh, the king of Persia. His servants also tell him, oh, our king, let us get you another girl instead of Vashti, and they go all the country and look for a girl. The same wording is used in the Hebrew. So there's like a moral decline, moral deterioration, which is very apparent. Okay. Now, I don't know if the biblical author wanted to, he saw Avishag for that unworthy treatment, or his aim was to kind of indicate to us of King David in his weakness, you know. And what's interesting is the traditional commentaries. They are enjoying biting that story, you know. It's like juicy. They enjoy biting it. So, for example, they deal with it at length. In the story, Abarbanel, Spain, Don Isaac Abarbanel, Spain, the 15th century, it says, why have we said about this story and King David was so cold and he couldn't get warm at all to this story? There is no benefit in this story. And should we like to think that on a book it was written all private matters of David? Like this, do you think all his private matters was written? Here's the thing. You don't want to imagine that, and after you read it, then you have to imagine it. See what I'm saying? You don't want to think about it. After you read it, now you have to think about it. Maybe that's what the biblical author wanted to achieve. Maybe this is what he wanted to achieve after he again kind of praised the lovely king who wrote the Psalms. And okay. Let's continue. I just want to say that this story, they're looking for a girl for him. You know, coming to the English monarchy, it reminds a bit the Tudors, Henry VIII, with his big court, with his big attendants, with his many wives. There, everyone wants to be part of the king's court here as well. All the fathers want to try to, I looked at the word, tote, T-O-U-T. They're trying to tote, T-O-U-T, with their daughters to get closer to the king. And generally, King David and Henry VIII have some things in common. Red hair, brave warriors, easy to anger, both Byzantine court around them, full of stories, full of intrigues. But with King David's, the ladies, the women stayed with their neck, with their heads on the connected, you know, he didn't execute them. All the 18 ladies. So the rabbinic story said that Avishag asked him to marry her to sort her position. What's her position? All the 18 other ladies, women, have rooms and servants, and this new lady walks around and they all whisper after her. Whispering what? I don't know. We read the Bible from another context in a differentiation of years, and all this needs to be taken into consideration. Yet, apparently, we are not on that different because, as I'm saying, the ancient commentaries also find what to comment on that. Ralbag, Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, better known in his name Gershonides. You know Maimonides. Last week I spoke about Nachmanides. This is Gershonides, 13th century Spain. He writes, I think both David and Avishag was rather shame on this deed, and he kind of manages to imagine the inconvenience of both of them. He doesn't see the just objectification of Avishag. He also can a commentator who can see her as a person. Up till now, Avishag with respect, she's just the appetizer. She's just looking aside in this Game of Thrones, because that's what's going on here, Games of Thrones. Now, here we are. Then Adoniah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared for himself chariots, and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not rebuked him in any time, saying, why have you done so? He was also very good looking. If you remember, this is kind of an echo of the story with Absalom, the bigger brother who rebelled against him and also was very good looking, and his father also didn't rebuke him. Then he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, who is the chief of the army, and Abiathar the priest, and they followed and helped Adoniah. Adoniah starts to get his private army, he's getting people to follow him and so on. He's saying, the Bible says he wasn't educated well. So your mother should have beaten you when you were young. Your mother didn't educate you properly. He's already making allies with the chief of staff of the army and so on. But some people do not follow him. Who? Zadok the priest, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Ray, and others who belonged to David were not with Adoniah. So who is going to be the heir is the talk of the day, right? Everyone got something to say, everyone are involved with it, and there are coalitions. So there are those who are involved and those who are not involved. Then Adoniah sacrificed sheep and oxen and cattle and the stone of Zohelet, which is on Ein Rogel, the fountain of Rogel. And he also invited his brothers, the king's son, and all the men of Judah, but he did not invite Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the mighty man, and Salomon his brother. Adoniah is a bit impatient. He's not waiting for his father to die. He's trying to push forward, to put the facts, to put in front, to make him stand in front of a done fact that he is the king now. But the news comes to Nathan the prophet, and he takes action. Nathan spoke to Bathsheba, the mother of Salomon, saying, "Have you not heard that Adoniah, the son of Haggith, has become king, and David doesn't know? Come, please, let now give you advice that you may save your own life and the life of your son Solomon. If Adoniah is going to be the king, the first thing he's going to do is to kill you and your son, because you are a threat to him. Go immediately to the king and say to him, did you not, my lord or king, swear to your maidservant, saying, surely your son Salomon shall reign after me, and he shall sit on my throne? Why then Adoniah become the king? Then while you are still talking there with the king, I will also come after you and confirm your words." It's raining here, it's raining. Plotting. He's like pulling the strings in order to get what he wants. If he will go directly to the king, it will not work. Bathsheba must come first, then he will come afterwards. So Bathsheba went into the chamber of the king, now in brackets. Now the king was very old, and Abishag the Shunammite was serving the king. Why do you have to mention it again? You know, if it was like an HBO series, you would go like the king is old, and then the camera moves, and then you see Abishag. If it would be HBO, it would be, you know, fine. Anyhow, very unflattering description of David. The king is senile, frail, and doesn't know what's going on. And then she said, as the prophet has commanded her, all her claims. She reminded David that he promised that Solomon shall be king. Yet we do not find this kind of a promise was made formally in the Bible. It was done probably privately. There wasn't a clear declaration about it. So she insists that he will make a public declaration that Solomon is the heir. And she also reminded him that she and her son Solomon are in danger of death. Now I want to tell you, Bathsheba, out of all of these 18 wives, paid a very high personal price for her connection with her private relationship with David. Everyone knew on the sin of David. Everyone knew on his punishment. Everyone knew she left her husband for the king. And everyone knew that the king sent her husband to die. In case you are not updated in the story, let me give you a brief. Going in the time machine to Samuel 2, some decades ago. Then it happened one evening that David arose from his bed and walked on the roof on the king's house. The army is in the field doing war, and the king wakes up in the evening. One evening, the king rose from his bed. In the evening, he wakes up from his siesta and having a walk on the roof, and then he sees a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired for the woman, Anyhow, she's the wife of Uriah the Hittite. David sent a message and took her, and she came to him and lay with him, and she And after a while, she comes to say, I'm bearing a child. That's, as I was saying, while the army is in the battle, then he asked Yoav to send her husband Uriah to the battle, set Uriah in the forefront to the harsh battle, and then retreat from him, that he may stuck down and die. And then when they send and tell him that that's what happened and Uriah died, he said, he said to the messenger, tell to Joab, do not let this thing despair you, for the sword devours one as well of the other. The sword devours. It says, In Hebrew, it's even more strong. So and so the sword devours. You know, in a war, people die. What do you want me to say? Strengthened your attack against the city. So this moment is always between them, David and Bathsheba. This moment is always between them. So she earned rightfully the right to presume that her son will get the throne. Then in a perfect timing, just then, while she was still talking to the king, Nathan the prophet comes in and said to the king, "Here is Nathan the prophet." And when he came before the king, he bowed and he said, "Adoniah shall reign after you, and you will not tell you." He says, "Oh, my king, you changed your idea. You changed your mind. You appointed Adoniah as your heir apparent, and you didn't told me." He's like poking him. He's poking him, the prophet poking him to react. It's like reporting to him. So Adoniah is can it be possible that you have done such a thing to allow Adoniah to crown himself and you didn't tell me? So David this is the moment when he's collecting himself. This is the one from being frail and senile. This is the moment when he's coming back to his lion self, and he says, "No, now Solomon will be after me, the king." He's coming back to himself, and everyone bowed and faced and says, "Lord, let the Lord King David live forever." This is his last moment of strength. Last moment of strength. So this is the last verse of the Haftorah that Beth is going to read tomorrow. David is still the king, and then we are anointing Solomon. There's a coronation of Solomon to king, and then Adoniah and his supporters run away. There is a continuation to that, also relating to Avishag, which I'm not in a position to describe now. Check it yourself. Adoniah has to beg Solomon, and Solomon kind of spare him for now. He will kill him later on. And Solomon is not only the heir apparent, he is anointed that day. So later on, in the end of the chapter, they says King Solomon, and when they refer to David, they just say David, not King David. It's like the father has abdicated in his life, and there is a new king. So before we conclude, we finalized the linguistic and thematic connection between the Torah and the Haftorah, the transition of generation, but it's not enough. I'll tell you why, because it's not only that Abraham is also old in age and advanced, and not that both of them are taking care to the continuation of the dynasty. The story here is that for Abraham, it's presented as this is the way to do it, and with David it presented this is the way to mess it up, then mess it out. It's a contradiction. The connection is a connection of contradiction. Here there is like a very clear story with Abraham sorting his thing, making sure his son gets married, doing the things, and then dying. And David, when everything is, as I said, like a Netflix or HBO series with a lot of drama. Now, to conclude, how this story was perceived during the generations. Back to the comparing to the stories of the kings of England and generally to medieval kings. When the medieval European kings had to choose what would be the model to their legitimacy, they had two models to choose, the model of the Roman Empire and the model of the Bible, right? The West is a combination of the Judeo-Christian tradition and of the Roman tradition. And the Roman traditions, the magistrate, the set of Roman regime was taken already by the Catholic Church and also didn't have good memories. And the Bible was much more exotic, much more far, and promising the divine protection, the divine covenant between the king and God. And they have chosen the model of anointing, which comes from the Bible, and mainly the story that comes up now in these verses, that Zadok the king, Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet anointed Solomon king. As many of you probably know, this is the coronation anthem by Handel. It was composed, the version that we know today was composed in 1727 by Handel to the coronation of George II. This is one of 4 coronation anthems, and we sing it, it is sang in every coronation that happened since. I'll tell you a word about later. The text, however, is much more ancient. It's based on the coronation of James II in 1685, but actually goes back as a Christian hymn in England to the coronation of King Edgar in the Bath Monastery in 1973, 973, the 10th century. I said this is like deep into medieval times, and again, what my point is how the biblical text is functioning in our modern culture. So as said, it has been used as a coronation anthem, and I've made a calculation how many times it was sang in coronation. I'll be quick. George II, George III, George IV, William III, Victoria, Edward VII, George V. As you may know, Edward VIII was not coronated, George VI, and Elizabeth, 9 times overall. I'm going to share with you a few notes from Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet, with some pictures from the coronation in 1953. There is a reason why we find it so interesting to deal in details with the life of kings and queens from the Bible, and this attempt of the biblical author to kind of give us the juicy details, to the way that we are all interested in the crown. Season 4 and season 5 coming, there is a reason to that. This is really touching our imagination, really lightening our imagination. Here we go. Give me a second. I'm sharing it. We won't hear the whole thing, but at least some of it. Just a second. Here we are. Shame. Did they hear it? That would be enough for now. That would be enough for now. What I wanted to manifest is how the biblical story taken from our Haftorah has been part, a crucial part, really a crucial part in the setting of the monarchy that exists until today, and has such a strong power on the imagination of our people, of people in general. Good, good. Okay, it was a complicated sermon. I hope you're good with it. I would like to invite Max Green to call the names for the Kaddish and lead us with the Kaddish.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm going to start first with the reading on page 597. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Zichronan Livracha. Tonight, we mourn the passing of the late Miriam Merkel, and we wish a long life to her family, her children, and the rest of her family. There is also another passing this week, although not a member of our shul. It was of Dennis Clooney, an attorney of note during the apartheid era. He was known as the people's lawyer and one of the greatest legal giants in South African history, and one of the greatest defense lawyers in the apartheid era. And his connection with Beit Emanuel is he defended both Paul Davis and Alan Fine during that period. And now we go to people of our community. We observe the yahrzeit of the following. Lee Cooper, who's Lee Kameroff, the wife of Sidney Kameroff, Hannah Goldberg, mother of Jeffrey Goldberg and Michael Goldberg, Donald Gordon, father of Richard Gordon, Anne Green, my mother, and Joyce Kesley, wife of Ian Kesley, Janusz Klosowski, husband of Joanna Klosowski, Sarah Lazarus, grandmother of Leonard Singer and Judy Hodes, Addie Swaden, mother of Louis Swaden. May their memory be for a blessing. If anyone would like to join me in saying the Kaddish, it is on page 598 of our Siddur. Yiskadal, v'yiskadash, Shmei Rabbah, v'almada v'ibra kirotei v'yamlech malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yom echon, v'chayei dikol Beit Yisrael b'agala uzman kariv v'imru amen. V'hei Shmei Rabbah mevorach, v'olam u'lemei u'maya. Yisborach v'yishtabach, v'yitpo'al v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitada v'yitale v'yitalau, Shmei d'kudesha v'rifu. Leila min kol b'chata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran v'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. And with that, we move to Diane Fine to the announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Firstly, I want to wish Beth Levine and her family mazel tov on her bat mitzvah. If we had a slight taste of what she was offering tonight, I think tomorrow she's going to be a great success. So well done. Next Shabbat, Rabbi Sa'ar will be visiting Cape Town for a rabbinic kala, and we wish him safe travel and productive discussions. Hope you get to walk on the beach or climb the mountain while you're there. And the service will be led by our lay readers, and the sermon will be delivered by Mickey. Thanks to the organizers and the participants of the Zoom club yesterday. It was a fascinating presentation or group of presentations about the upcoming elections. And just to urge everyone to go and vote on Monday. It is a privilege to be able to vote, and really we can't miss the opportunity to make our mark. And good luck to everyone involved. I just wanted to say that Arzenu, which during lockdown has not really run very effectively, is now up and running again. If anyone is interested, the details are in the bulletin. Please, if you're interested in the reform, progressive and liberal voices of around Zionism, it is an important group to join. I know there've been questions around our request that people be vaccinated if they're going to come to shul. It's all explained in the bulletin. Please read it. Don't just ignore it. But for now, our hybrid services are continuing. So if you don't come to shul, you can continue to see us on Zoom. And I think that's all. Travel safely, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. We will be here tomorrow at 9:30 for the Bati. Please join us if you can, and let us conclude. I'm sorry I spoke in length and it's a bit later than usual. Let us conclude with Adon Olam. Jessica, to you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Adon Olam, Hashem Alach, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Thank you, Simon.
Shalom.
Thank you, Simon.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye, Joe. See you tomorrow.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Max.
Thank you. Thank you.